Yo, what's up, everybody? Yes, yo, you don't stop. Big John come rocking a short shot. Told you we had a special guest today. Sometimes the snow comes down in June. Sometimes you thought your chance had passed. I went and saved the best for last. It's my boy, Paulie Sporer at Sporer, S-P-O-R-E-R. Paul, why don't you just take a second and tell everybody what you're doing? Obviously, we have some degenerates already in the comment section. Like, what kind of people are waiting for this as a single game to hang out with me and you, man? What kind of craziness? But really, if you're here listening to this show and people know this, you love baseball. These people love baseball. Paul is one of us. If somehow you're unfamiliar with Paul, like, welcome aboard. You're about to get it. Paul, just tell me everything you're doing, because I can't even follow it all. The Twitch stuff, the Fangraph stuff, it's all so good. Lay it out, man.
John, thanks so much for having me on. I really, really appreciate it. I'm the fantasy editor over at Fangraphs, fantasy.fangraphs.com. I have a job with OOTP, Out of the Park Baseball video game, where I work on the perfect team cards. If you play the game, you definitely know what that is. I stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/Sporer. And I do things like this, jump on shows with friends and talk baseball, because, we've only got a few games left in the season. I'm going to the Arizona Fall League this week to get my last fill of live baseball for the year. I might even actually make it to Game 5 in Arizona, so that could be fun.
Yeah, I wonder if you served the last one up for me. Paul forgot my favorite piece of content that he does is his inimitable, award-winning podcast, Sleeper in the Bust. You really have to listen to it. For someone like myself, Paul, that does two sports, I'm always like taking from Peter to pay Paul, right? You kind of trying to balance the scales, but I never fully get away from something. And you're one of the things that I make sure is part of my baseball. I'm very open about this. Come the playoffs, I'm not modeling the games. I watch the playoff stuff, but it's very little. My focus is really on football. But your show with Justin, to go around the season, you guys are always either looking backwards and applying it going forwards. And again, regardless, don't worry, fantasy betting around here, it's all the same, Paul. I often talk about where, to me at least, the science of baseball happens in the fantasy world. And I like to kind of dance between it, because I've been able to take a lot of that and use it in betting. And now I've kind of, I'm popular for whatever it is. I'm at the floor of baseball betting, right? It is what it is. There aren't that many people that are willing to get into the MLB market and bet every single day. We mentioned 5,000 games. So, all right. To that point, I was asking you off air because I really am curious. When you look at the playoff stuff, do you even care about the regular season stats? Like, we're gonna break down this game. Okay, there we go. Just talk to me how that separation happens then.
There's just something about the playoffs that we learn every year, that the calendar flips. It's different. I mean, you look at some of the stuff, get a baseline of some idea of how the players are, but it's such small samples too. I mean, just think about the regular season. Think about toward the end of the regular season when Houston's getting dumped by KC and Oakland, right? In a single week, things can go crazy. So now you take the playoffs and you heighten that where all the teams are actually good. And I just find that too many people lean on the regular season, especially September. I don't know how many times we have to see these playoffs where a team that was ice cold gets hot, or a team that was running hot goes immediately cold, until we stop taking September performance into account in October. It has no bearing. Sometimes the team stays hot and keeps going. Sometimes the team stays cold and gets ousted early. It happens every way. The bottom line is, though, there's no indicator there. And that's always what we're looking for. Indicators, things that we can lean on. And September performance is entirely meaningless to me. So even though Texas limped in, now I'm not saying I had them to the World Series, but I certainly didn't have their September playing any sort of role into what I thought they were going to do in October. And I think that that's still a big mistake that a lot of people make when doing playoff betting.
Yeah, it's funny. Heading into the playoff, we went from the microscope that we normally have out to the telescope. We took the 35,000-foot view. and you try and look at these teams more of what they are as a whole, right? Not necessarily year to date, not necessarily second half, but what did they do well? That's funny, to your point, we did get the Rangers right because, man, they hit righties so well, and they just mash fastballs. And it sounds silly. There aren't that many teams that do that. Again, you're one of the few people that understands this stuff where, you could be so good against lefties that it brings up those whole stats, right? The year-to-date stats. We talk about this in fantasy all the time where, not to say you overweight splits, but you have to be aware of them. So
Absolutely.
we were into Texas, but now I want to ask you about the flip side of that. The inverse, which I've been taking L for love. I don't have any room on my freaking forehead. I'm going to have to shave my head to fit any more L's that I've taken on the Diamondbacks. Dude, I think they're a good team. I think the competitive window is just opening. Well, now it looks stupid because in the World Series, like the baby snakes are just snake dead, no snake dead. Snake very much alive, Paul. And I can't get to it. We're going to talk about a little bit of the analytics stuff in a little bit. Dude, they don't hit that great. There really is not much there. The starting pitching isn't great. It's not deep. It's not experienced. It's not robust. Even when you look at the arsenals, we'll talk about that again. We'll talk about Brandon Pfaadt in maybe a few minutes. What he's done made a little change. Dude, can Arizona close this out? And if so, does that obviously you're a World Series winner, that will legitimize you, but it makes you think of maybe like the Royals team that kind of won and flashed.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the Diamondbacks, man.
I love the baby snakes, and I only wish that my early season love had carried over because I actually had them losing the first round to Milwaukee because I really like that Milwaukee team. Now, I will say I did lose a little bit of my flair for them when Brandon Woodruff went out, but I really, really love that Milwaukee team. I figure 3 aces, enough offense, they can be dangerous. I'm sure they were deflated by the Woodruff news, and then boom, they lose to the D-backs. But then I immediately shifted to the D-backs train at that point because I think this young team, there is something. I love that you bring up that KC team. Now, they're not built the same, right? That was that crazy great bullpen that KC had, their kind of slapdash offense, but it was a lot of youth and kind of just guys, everyone doing something. And you got to get those kind of runs in October where you get a bunch of guys just kind of pulling their weight, coming out of nowhere. Brandon Pfaadt, like you said, we're going to talk a bit more deeper about him. He's been crazy, a complete 180 from the home run machine that we saw kind of down the stretch. And now he's doing everything, but they've got hitters up and down the line. A lot of young, interesting players too. They're just a really fun team. I'm with you though. I thought, okay, their window's opening. They're probably going to get doused this year by a top team, namely the Dodgers, right? Big Brother's going to get them. No, they just steamrolled through. And they really underscore what we were talking about with regards to the October sample and how the smallness of it creates a lot of chaos. And people that think we need to fix the playoffs because Atlanta and the Dodgers got broken don't really understand playoffs. Because if you want a playoff that works, again, very strong quotes there because I think this is exactly the playoffs working. But if you want a playoff that works and just puts the number 1 seeds in, then don't have a playoff. Right. Because that's not really what playoffs are meant to do. The small samples are meant to flip the table over, create chaos, and have a team like the Arizona Diamondbacks get all the way to the World Series. And even the Rangers, because again, everything's would have told people if you're betting on trends and the way you're looking at everything to fade the Rangers because of their September. But you get into the October and everything flips. So I really like this Baby Snakes team. I think they're going to be an interesting club where even if they can close this out, I think they might have a regression year next year and then kind of restabilize in 25. Like, I think that kind of team that they're playing so far over, they might come back to the pack a little bit while continuing to kind of set their foundation for a long-term window. I don't know that they're going to immediately be great next year because I don't think a lot of things that have happened in October are going to carry over to next year. Like I think they kind of, they're playing the best baseball that this team can play in a short sample right now.
Yeah, and it's funny too because the thing that got them there, Gallen being awesome. I had a tweet the other day. If I told you that Zach Gallen was going to have a 5.4 ERA through the playoffs, where would you have told me that they got eliminated? And you probably told me in the very first round. So again, Kelly has found the fountain of youth. Pfaadt looks like it's wheels up for him, arrow up for the future now. Like again, he's one of those guys. Paul, again, you are legitimately. We've actually had this happen through conversations on Twitter. You're our most quoted analyst. We make up a lot of our own kind of terms here and stuff. We're going to have a few of them today, but I'm not that, like, I don't know, man. I like to lift and cite people, right? It's not copying when you cite and like flatter,
Exactly.
right? So we use your work, right? My highest form of flattery is that we use your work.
Thank
And
you.
man, all right, let's get into the game because again, I was gonna start doing fantasy. I want to know about Alec Thomas and what you think. We'll have to do that. We'll have to save that for another time.
I
But
actually
again, it's
love Alec Thomas,
expectations.
just so you know.
Yeah.
I'm fully buying his little October breakout. I'm fully in on him next year. I love Alec Thomas, but continue.
The thing with Fott that I was going to say, our term is he's a trajectory guy because this happens all the time. Big time prospect, everyone loves him. They overdraft him, then he stinks because MLB is hard. He gets demoted, he makes a change, he gets promoted, and then he's good.
And everyone that
People
overhyped
fail,
him, they
but
quit
he's an
him.
ERA. How could you bet on this guy? He's
Yep.
got an ERA. Well, he's. Oh, you know what? Let's start with Fott. I had Scherzer up top, but let's start with Fott because we're already going there. Okay, so here's the big thing. Again, 4 starts in the playoffs at Milwaukee. He went 2 2/3, gave up 3. I thought maybe it was over for them right there. He corrected course since then. In the CS and the DS, 14 innings pitched. He has a 1.29 ERA and a .71 WHIP. He's been phenomenal. Now, he did face Texas one time. This is why I wanted to mention the trajectory thing. Texas wiped the floor with him, but it was before the promotion. So I've heard a couple of people out there already quoting this stuff. I'm not sure I'm necessarily buying it. I'm going to get into the quick change that I brought up. I have a million stats, but I'm just going to get into the main thing that I noticed, Paul. So here's the big thing. For me, Fott was a major struggle, right, because of the 4-seamer. He threw it too much. Again, one of the things that we developed here, I like to use a triple slash for individual pitches. Again, I talk so fast, we cover 15 games a day here. So I use usage, X-slug, whiff rate. Deployment, contact quality, swing and miss ability. Very easily set to give you an idea like how often, how hard does it get hit when it gets hit, and can he induce whiffs. So this pitch, by any objective measure, not very good. 45 use, which is very high. A 550 expected slug, which is way too high. Only 18% whiff, 287 expected batting average. He gave up 13, vast majority of his home runs on that pitch. What I've noticed in the playoffs, they cut down the usage, something we talk about all the time here. Why are you throwing your worst pitch the most? It happens way too much in this league, in particular with fastballs. Listen, if he dominated the minors with a fastball, that's fine. Let him lean on the secondaries, learn how to throw those things. He actually added 2 miles an hour to the sweeper, which is now the primary pitch ball. So again, right, trajectory, changes, and not overreacting to small samples with pitchers, but understanding that they can make small changes that then change their trajectory. So we're seeing the sweeper coming in harder. It was always a good pitch. He dialed down the fastball, and this young man has been lights the F out right here. Let me look at the pitching props. I'm going to lay him out for you, and then I want all of your ideas, which of these you like. He said it 5 strikeouts. I don't know if we're going to get there. 10 of 18 in the regular season, 2 of 4 in the playoffs. I'm not so sure.
Yeah,
one that I do like is go.
No. I thought I wasn't sure if you were going to go one by one or lay them out, but go ahead. You can lay them all out.
Yeah, I'm going to lay them out because again, you know, the books here, they lean towards quick hooks. So I think we want to do that also. The one that I do like is 1.5 walks. Jay, you can hit this one for us. I want to go under, regardless of the juice. It's the playoffs. We're gonna have to pay it. We'll just play responsibly. We're not gonna have more than 5 or 6 plays by the time we're done anyway. So I want to go under the 2 walks. He's been downright ridiculous. He's a 4% walk rate in the playoffs. And again, we saw that control come through. So that's one that I like. Then you've got 4.5 hits. I want to go to the under on that because my thinking is either he's going to be really good and not give up 5 hits, or once you start giving up hits to the Rangers, they're usually extra base hits. Again, the way that they hit righties, Paul, you just nailed it. A lot of them are home runs, in particular with the playoffs, right? This is kind of how the playoffs shake out. So I like under the 1.5 walks. I like over under the hits also. Man, and I was a little stuck on the earned runs. Again, I'm a little hesitant sometimes, Paul, with earned runs against a team like the Rangers because of the home run. So that's set at 2.5, which is a shade higher than you would think in the playoffs. Generally, they're 1.5. So I think I'm leaving that one alone. Talk to me about the control, or how do you think this one will play out? How do you project it if the floor is all you?
I'm fully with you on the walks. Obviously, that's a big thing for him. 2 is his max here in the playoffs. Even when things weren't really going well for Fott during the regular season, you know, he had the ups and downs. It was always the homer. It wasn't some crazy lack of control. In fact, it was maybe almost the ball in the zone too much. That 4-seamer you're talking about, 6% walk rate, 6% walk rate in the minors as well. He has control. I think that's probably the safest of the ones that we've talked about here. Strikeout 1 makes some sense. I can get there, but I'm probably going to lean away from that one. I'm just not entirely sure that this Texas team is going to be striking out a whole ton, even though he's had some really good strikeouts here in the playoffs. The hits one, I think your point makes a lot of sense, right? Because if they get too many hits, I think they are going to pull him early. Although Milwaukee was able to run up 7 on him in 2 2/3, but we've seen a completely different Brandon Pfaadt since then in the subsequent 3 starts. So I'm probably more neutral on the hits one. The reason the K's one is tough for me is because he's got to get him early. Got to get him early and often because we're really probably thinking max 5 innings for Pfaadt, even if he's going well, right? They're not going to push it. Torrey knows better than to push too far. Not going to go into that third time through a whole bunch with Brandon Pfaadt, I don't believe. So you got to believe that he's going to get the K's early. I think that walks one is my favorite of that bunch.
Paul is part of the Fangraphs family. Again, something that we like to cite people and we like to promote. I listen, man, the rising tide lifts all ships. We all love the game. And Paul, we're in a saturated market. And how are we going to stick out by delivering smart information and being very transparent, especially on the handicapping side? Which is why the first thing I tell people is, I'm not saying you shouldn't bet in the playoffs, but you shouldn't feel like you have to get involved in max bet the playoffs the way that we would a 15-game slate. Because the fact of the matter is, the pricing is not great, and we were getting better prices on better opportunities, and that's a fact, right? So again,
Absolutely.
people, we're here to lay out, but again, you, like myself, Paul, I think you do such a great job with the analysis point, part of it, that people might take information that we have and build and play on their own. And I fully encourage that. I really do, as long as you're being responsible. Again, something that we talk about here is, I'm trying to help people, right? We're trying to help people.
Absolutely.
As they legalize sports betting, one of the things that doesn't get talked about enough is the downside, right? The evil part of it, the very dangerous part of it. Something that I like to think a lot of my viewership is not immune to, but is very aware of, and we're, into that, where some shows will tell you they have 10 plays, so it's 10 units. Wait, what? You shouldn't be betting multiples.
No, you got to be
careful. Up an allotted risk. Here, we set an allotted risk. For me, it's usually 2% of bankroll, and then I work backwards. The point being, you can have 100 plays as long as you divide it into a fair allotted risk going forward, everybody. So just responsible betting to the fore. As I close out the season, Paul, we want to leave people with the stuff that kind of matters. So I think both of us are wheels up on Pfaadt. I mean, Texas offense, what is there to say? They're really good. We mentioned that they absolutely mash righties. This is on the season, so we're talking 4,500 plate appearances against righties. Texas Rangers were top 3 against righties in batting average, OBP, OPS, slugging, ISO, homer, WOBA, and WRC+. And again, I was rattling this off the other day. Check this out, how good they were at hitting fastballs. This is right-handed, against right-handed fastballs. The barrel rate and home runs. Garver, 28.7, a 28% barrel rate. Seager, 24.10. Jung, 22.8. Adolis, 18.12. Simeon, 12.9. Leote, 10.7. Heim, 10.6. So there are 7 of the 9 starting hitters have a double-digit barrel rate against, right, but this is the thing, it was against the pitch that Pfaadt was throwing too often. And I generally say, because I've spoken to some hitting coaches and stuff that will say, once a fastball is above 40, that's when they'll give hitters, not to say the green light on the red light, but they'll tell them you could sit on it. Wait fastball. Make him throw the off-speed stuff for strikes. If he tries to throw it on the first pitch and falls behind, that only increases your chance of the fastball, and you're going to jump on it, right? But now that Pfaadt has dialed it down to 25, which again, you understand is really, it's still, I don't know, what would you call it? It's not really primary, it's not really secondary, but it's up there. You can't really sit on that. Does anybody hit sweepers? I dug into that too. Corey Seager has a 600 expected WOBA against sweepers somehow. Nate Lowe has a 485. No one else is above 280. Probably what you'd expect. Do you have anything on the Texas offense? I feel like postseason is more predicated on pitching.
Yeah, I think so too. I think when you're looking at the Texas offense, obviously they've been able to kind of carry this team as far as they've gotten here because that bullpen does still remain sketchy. I'm surprised to hear some of those sweeper numbers. But yeah, when you're talking about the fastball, that's been like one of the major evolutions here is, guys used to throw 60-70% fastballs, dang near league wide. Now you're talking something in the 40s is one of the higher ones.
It's high, too
as
high.
Guys lean into their off-speed stuff because everyone can hit a fastball now, right? Like that's because there's so much velocity in the game. If you can't hit 95 plus, how are you making the pros, right? Like you got to be able to hit the heat because the nastiness of the breakers too, like they're so filthy. So if you can't crush that velo, where are you going to go in this league? So I agree with you. Once you start to see somebody over that 45% mark, you're like, whoa, you need to die. That fastball either needs to be elite or you need to stop using it so much. And at least Fott has come down with it because that was his biggest issue leading to that 2-1 homer 9 that we saw during the season there. So, but as far as the Rangers offense, I mean, are you talking like individual props? I think you can go a lot of different routes. I'm probably still going to love Seager, but the problem that you highlighted was with only one game, or even in the playoffs when there's a few games, everything gets sharper, right? Like you said, the books have one laser focus, so they don't have as much softness that you can kind of go out and pick at. So you're probably not really going to be going on your Semyons and your Seagers and your Adolis Garcias because that's the primary focus. You need to kind of get into that secondary level. Somebody that I loved coming into the year, that I felt really good about his season and everything he does. If you're looking for maybe a righty-righty matchup, I love Josh Young. And I think, props with him are definitely things that I get involved with throughout this playoff here. And he hasn't had a huge playoff, but I certainly love Josh Young. I think he's one of their big cornerstones for the future. Maybe he's got something that he can do against Brandon Pfaadt tonight. Maybe he's a bit of a game changer. And I think that his numbers might be a little bit softer than Seager and Garcia and Semyon because they're the top of the order type guys.
You put the big Cheshire cat smile on my face, Paul, because I know it's so funny, man. You and I are really so simpatico. It's also really funny how your analysis brought you you kind of smelled the truffle. And I was going to ask if you looked at the BVP stuff. Jung hit 2 home runs off Fott in that game earlier this year. I don't know if you noticed that. So I mentioned that he got crushed. Again, I was trying not to hyper focus on it because that wasn't what I was trying to do. But on May 3rd at Texas, he went 4 2/3, gave up 9 hits, 4 home runs. It was Leote, it was Hyman, it was Jung, 2 Shamalama Ding Dongs. All right, before we get on to the other side, this show is brought to you by betstamp.app/Cold to the Pen. Yeah, we actually got to the green. Man, very hard to bet baseball every day and actually make money at this stuff. Jay, tell me about the rest of the parts I'm forgetting.
Yeah, for sure, John. I got you here. We find the easiest way to improve as a sports bettor is to always have multiple sports books and to always get the best odds. We recommend using an odds comparison tool like BetStamp to always get the best odds. BetStamp, like you saw on screen there, compares odds across every sports book for games, player props, and futures. Save time, save money. Download the app today. And if you're looking to sign up for more sports books, make sure you head over to betstamp.app/call to the pen. If you sign up through that page, it helps support the show. Now back to John and Paul.
Yeah, awesome stuff. One of those other lessons that I find to be really, really important, everybody. Again, right, you know how we roll here. This is, Paul, we joke here, where MLB's version of 300, right? We're not really huge, but we're fierce as shit, man. We'll funnel you through the tunnel, and before you know it, you're catching a size 12 sandal to the chest. This isn't madness, it's Sparta here, where we give to the books nothing, but we take from them everything. And one of the really, really sharp things that you can do, again, it's not just because BetStamp is the sponsor here. That stuff matters. When they show you a list of prices, number one, it's pretty obvious. Bet the best price. Paul and I can have identical tickets over the course of a year, but if he's getting plus 100 while I paid minus 105, he could be using black ink and I could be using red ink at the end of the year. So just right off the bat, if you went into a store and one soda was next to another soda, but one was 10% cheaper, even if it's only 3 or 4 cents, you would take the cheaper one. But besides that, Paul, one of the things I like to talk about, because I have a background in trading, and it's using that as a leading indicator of directionality, meaning, let's say we know this game opened at 8. If you look at BetStamp and you see 8s and 8.5s, you're starting to get the feel that the market is leaning, that bamboo reed is starting to shift, and before it breaks, and you can get in on that, and in particular with totals. How could you understate the importance of being in front of a whole run in baseball, in particular in a playoff game? So, people, you got to use the BetStamp stuff. It's just plus EV. It's plus EV process. Paul, I've done enough talking. Can you lead us off? I call him the chairman of the board, old Blue Eye. What do you think about Max Scherzer, right? Well, again, I generally fade pitchers coming off the IL. We didn't. I backed him because of the playoff stuff. I took the L. That was another L for love. I assumed he was going to correct the second time because the velo, shape, the spin was all good. He got cracked again. What can we expect from Max Scherzer? What are you expecting from Mad Max?
It's really, really difficult to fade Max Scherzer, right? So I
Yeah.
understand your inclination there
Yeah.
100%. One thing I would say, and this was something I'd heard elsewhere, so I did not originally think this. I can't remember exactly where it was. It was a different podcast. It might have been the Talking Baseball one with Trevor Plouffe and the John Boy guys, but they were saying like, those are basically rehab starts, right? Because there's nowhere to rehab. And it is difficult to have a rehab start in the playoffs, right? A little bit of a high profile situation there, but you got to get him somewhere and he has to get some innings in. And I wonder if that's the case with Scherzer, where those two, because you mentioned like the pitches are still there. Like you can see the essence of Max. If you're watching those and you're familiar with him, you've seen the essence of Max Scherzer within those games, even though they've gone poorly. And I wonder if those two are enough to get him back to where Max Scherzer needs to be and that we can get 5, 6, or maybe even more innings tonight from him. I have a very difficult time betting against him. I really, really do. Love Max Scherzer. I think he's one of the greatest pitchers of his generation with Kershaw and former teammate of his, Justin Verlander. I think those three immediately jump to mind as the best of the generation. But these two outings have been bad. Understand if you have difficulty getting back on that train there, but I'm leaning a bit toward him here. I think if his body will allow him, Max can deliver. I think right now his body has stopped him. He's been a little bit shy. I think, what has it been, 7 total innings here in the playoffs, or 6 2/3?
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's enough. You don't want to go too high with hope, though. Anything I'm doing with Max, I'm having my unit on that. If I normally go a full unit here, I'm going to go half just because of the scare. I don't know where he is physically, but if I'm getting a full-on Max, and I gotta believe that they're not sending out a fully compromised Max. They gotta believe he's at least 95%. I'm going to trust the Rangers that they're going to send out a non-compromised guy, and I feel good about him going into Arizona tonight, delivering at least 4 strong and kind of getting into that bullpen. Now, that's the tough part, though, because that bullpen, you got to go 5 innings with them. That's the part that really scares me. So I think with Max, if you agree with me that you like Max to be finally ready, maybe you go a first 5 and you don't push it too much, because I don't know if I want to put 5 innings on that bullpen with even $1 of my money.
Yes, it's tough. The line, I'm going to read them out. You let me know after if any of them kind of stick out. I have swung and missed, at the strikeouts, because even though I kind of question, not say his durability, but just how long he was going to go, you could get the strikeouts in a smaller window, and if he's any good, you're going to get 4.5 strikeouts. He went over 20 of 27 times in the regular season, 0 of 2 in the postseason. 14.5 outs, he did that 22 of 27, 0-4. So 5 strikeouts we need, 15 outs, the walks are set at 2, hits are set at 4, earned runs set at 2 also, and they're all kind of split. You could tell the book, basically, everybody, once you start mining these things the way I did by hand, they just kind of get the average and add 1. The walks, 16 of 27. The hits, 17 of 27. Earned runs, 14 of 27. 1 of 2, 2 of 2, 2 of 2. In the playoffs, again, the book's not going to overreact to the playoffs. So, see, Paul, you said 4 innings. You're right at that 4 innings. You know what I mean? We're not at 15 outs. We need 15 outs. I don't know if we're going to get it, but man, it's difficult to not ask for 15 outs from Scherzer. I think
really
I like the outs one. Yeah, what do you like strikeouts? Like, does any? Let's remember, we don't force any placer. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But
no, I think the K's and the outs are probably the places I'm going to get. If you're feeling that extra confidence that I'm thinking of, again, are they going to send out a compromised Max in the World Series that they believe can only go 2 innings? I don't think they do, but then the other question will be, well, what else are they going to do, right? And you have to put in the psycho factor with Max, is that he's just going to say he's ready to go. I can go 10 innings tonight, right? We know that he's always going to kind of overstate what he can do too. I think the outs is probably the best one I can get to. I think we can get 5 tonight, right? Because even if he gives up a couple runs, if he doesn't look compromised, they're going to have to push him a little bit. You cannot trust this bullpen for 5 innings. I don't know how they can. So I think the outs and the Ks are probably the 2 I like the most. I would rank the outs the highest, the Ks a little bit lower. And again, I'm still going lighter than a full unit on either of these with Max, just to protect yourself a little bit from the fact that he might still be banged up. So if you like it for a full unit normally, go half, maybe do 3/4 or even a quarter on some of these, just because you want to protect yourself there. And I think by shaving down your unit size, that's where you're going to get some protection with Max if you believe in him, but you don't want to fully just dive in head first.
Yeah, as I look at the Max under the hood, there's a little bit of a Spider-Man gif going on here with the hyper use of the fastball. and then really excellent secondaries in between Fott and Max. So Max's fastball is at 94, which again we know below that 95 mark where it really starts to correlate to contact quality. 455 X slug, not great. 24 whiff rate, which is pretty good for a four-seamer. Despite the 16 inches of vertical ride, Max is almost a foot of horizontal run as four-seamer. With the 6'3 extension, it really helps. You could tell I've been not say reverse engineering, but Eno Stuff Plus got so much guff from really smart people that I just couldn't help but something like pull the strings on it. And like, long story short, Paul, I found I don't use it for off-speed stuff. I think that is more of a function of the fastball and how it changes eye level, and we change speeds, and then release point tunneling, mirror spin observations, and all that kind of other stuff that's really in the weeds. I have that Stuff Plus on the four-seamer, bro. It matters. I'm going to do off-season work on it. It absolutely. My flag is so far planted. I'm pouring concrete around it. I'm not even relying on the dirt. Four-seam stuff absolutely matters. Now, I've come to some different conclusions, but in general, long story short, Eno's super smart and it works. I have found if you're not splitting it, it can get you in trouble because you'll say his pitcher Stuff Plus is 125. But it's because the slider is like 150. Yeah. Like you said, those pitches are so filthy. But unless they're being used at a really intense rate, they shouldn't be impacting the whole because hitters don't offer at them the same way.
That's a great call about Stuff Plus and how each pitch contributes to it. Because you can have that one elite pitch that gives you a great high quality number, but you can't just blindly trust him. He has one elite pitch. I love that call out.
Yeah, also something that Max in particular is known for. It's weird. I didn't really have a name for it. I called it a targeted approach. I wrote about this at The Athletic because before anyone knew who I was or cared, before anyone read any of my stuff, and it was about how pitcher, and again, it's intuitive, Paul, but aren't some of our best discoveries things that we've known all along and we've just kind of said, wait a minute. Quality starts are stupid. I use money starts at seven innings minimum, 2 earned runs maximum. Now that's a determinative start. That's what I want to know, right? Stuff like that. The targeted approach was having distinct arsenals for different handed hitters. Now, obviously that matters because you need to know that, right? He's optimizing, you would think you're optimizing pitches for the different handed hitters. The thing that I was more pointing out for fantasy though, Paul, is fantasy players and handicappers alike can overlook secondary and tertiary pitches when they see like a single-digit usage. But my point is, if you throw a pitch exclusively to one-handed hitter, then it's not quite the same. So Max is a pretty good example, right? So you see the cutter comes in below 10%, but he really only throws it to lefties. So when you kind of zoom out and just go with the lefty stuff, oh man, my Stackcase is a bit slow. You'll see obviously that number jumps into being more of a primary pitch, which I was talking about. So Max is one of those guys, but what I noticed with him was he actually increased his fastball usage in the playoffs from 45 to 50, despite really, really effective off-speed stuff, right? We know Max has, hold on, I have it here, and the numbers are just like, they're colon collapsing off-speed stuff, right? The curveball, check it out. The same way, remember, fastball 455 X lug. The curveball 264 X lug, 32 whiff. The changeup 269 X lug, 28 whiff. He maintained a 33% whiff rate on each of those pitches in the playoffs, but just didn't throw them. So I'm with you, Paul. I'm feeling like I want to go the over outs. I want to back Max here. I'm going to back Max here. I want to go over outs. I'm just asking for 5 innings. I'm asking for Max Scherzer to go 5 innings. So, Jay, hit the over on the outs for us.
I think that makes a lot of sense there. And you're highlighting that the secondary stuff was good, but maybe not as highly used. That goes back to the injury piece. Was he leaning against it because maybe it was hurting him a little bit? And that's where maybe these 2 starts, if they are kind of rehab starts and he is back to max, then you can unleash that arsenal. And if he has his full arsenal, I think we can get 5 outs or 5 innings easily. But yeah, I think again, if you have the looming black cloud of the injury worrying you, just bring down your unit size. But I want to trust Max here. I really, really do.
Now, talk to me about talking about the Diamondback offense here, and this is where again I stepped on the rake. It broke my nose, but we're back to fight another day. Again, people, I'm the man in the arena, right? It's easy to do. It's always, that famous quote. It's always easy to mock the man in the arena, the person getting lumped up every single day in public, taking like slings and stuff. Arizona righties year to date, Paul, they were bottom 5 in home runs, middle of the pack. When you look at the second half, it was like 2,500 plate appearances, maybe 2,200. They were bottom 10 in OPS, WOBA, WRC plus. They were bottom 5 in slugging, ISO, expected WOBA. They were dead last in barrels. However, like I say, butt, like a big shaking butt, like a Birdman and juvenile butt, like a soapy water garden hose butt. They have decimated right-handed pitching. Check this out. This is like absolutely absurd. Perdomo, Carroll, Marte, Thomas, Gurriel, Moreno, Pham, all have hit 2 home runs off righties in the playoffs. What the hell is going on? They have completely flipped the script. Thomas, Marte, Carroll, and Perdomo have a 950 OPS or better in the playoffs against righties. Man, so all of the analysis that I had on Mr. Lawrence Sample, and I'm like, I don't have any more eyes to blacken right now, Paul. Should I just submit? I just capitulate and say we're in the middle of a burner? It's young kids. They're loving each other right now. And they're going to score some, maybe they score some runs. But again, I think it's going to be off the bullpen. I still think Matt gets his 5.
Yeah.
I think the Diamondbacks, even if they win, that it's late. I don't know what kind of confidence I have. Talk to me on the offensive side.
No, I tend to feel similarly there that they can get to this bullpen. That's been the big Achilles heel for Texas from the jump. Everyone worried about it. Now they got all the way here, working around it by just smashing the hell out of the ball and making sure that the bullpen doesn't really matter. But as we see tighter games, it's going to matter. And if we can't get 6 out of max, which we're only asking for 5 tonight for those 15 outs, they're going to have to put more innings on the bullpen. I think that is where the offense can get going. All those guys you name, though, Alek Thomas is really the only one that like kind of jumps out as like completely flipping the script on expectation, because yes, he's an interesting prospect who, again, like I said, I really love for the future. I loved coming into this year, and he didn't quite break out. Ended up cutting him in some fantasy leagues, picking him back up type of deal on off. I think next year could be the big breakout, this being kind of his coming out party. But all those other guys are remarkably capable hitters. Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte are obviously their studs. Gabby Moreno really breaking out, showing people who he is. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is a guy I've always had a soft spot for. I just think he's a really good hitter. His power went away last year. It came back this year. Pham, super intense, crazy dude.
Dog, right? If there's anybody that's a dog.
So good, though. Such a good player, always trying to better himself. Like, that offense goes up and down. Perdomo's another sneaky one. Put him with Thomas as well. Those are the 2 guys that have really jumped up. But you get 2 extra guys to kind of jump another level in October. That can be enough to spur you as long as the studs are studding. And Carroll and Marte are absolutely studding, as is Moreno. Walker's had some key hits as well. So the offense does run deep enough to create trouble. I do think it's going to create more trouble for this bullpen. They don't really have a stopper. Like, I don't trust Chapman to come in and just cool out a fire in the middle innings there. Leclerc's a quality closer, but he's gettable too. This Cody Bradford had some good outings, but he's had some bad ones. I just don't know who they turn to if things start bleeding in the 6th, that doesn't then begin a carousel of guys that are eminently hittable. Josh Sborz is probably the one guy. I will call him the stopper. He seems to be the one that can really put out some fires. But, imagine if they could trust like a John Gray to come in, or a Chris Stratton, or even an Andrew Heaney. Those are guys, almost all those guys have home run issues, though, too. And so that's been kind of the problem. I do think this offense can get them, but like you said, I'm with you on the bullpen being the picking point tonight, as opposed to the starter, since we both are backing Max.
Man, I'm looking at the Texas pin. Bradford has been really good. I guess
he had like the one bad outing.
It can kind of happen sneaky. He's got 6 2/3, a 1 earned run, but it's a homer, so of course that gets kind of pronounced. But a 1.35 ERA and 0.6 WHIP through 6 2/3 is really all you could ask for, right? Walk free, and like you said, Sborz. That's another one that was interesting, and another reason why I love fantasy for the game, but I think handicappers that don't not necessarily play fantasy, but have their eye on the science of the game and the deeper names and people that could arise, I feel like it really helps because, around here, Sborz, guys that we heard of, Cole Reagan, these are guys that we heard of, Paul. And again, you're a piece of this. Like we were talking, we were like, thank God for Paul Sporer, because It took again. Reagan's, he sucks. Oh my God, he sucks. This guy's terrible. He's royal. But when you're betting, that takes weeks sometimes for the betting market to correct. Cole Reagan's was like, it was like auto smash. And you mentioned F5. We have a soft spot here for F5 betting to get away from the hashtag we hate bullpens because they hashtag effing suck.
Yes,
you know,
they do.
and again, we talk about this all the time. People that like bet for, again, that's more like gambling to me than a business investor venture. Like we don't know pitchers are going to go 5, but you assume starters are going to go 5, and that's kind of something you're going to sink your teeth into. Once you get the bullpen stuff, it's so ridiculously wonky that I never want to hear any complaints. Anytime I win, I just figure I'm lucky. You know, so I guess, man, that was it. That was a pretty damn good breakdown of today and what you could expect. I mean, I believe, Jay, bring me up one. You know what? Because something, again, we talk about, Paul, is as we do our analysis, then betting into that, right? It happens a lot of times. People lay it out, and then, you know what, but I'm going to, whatever, F it. Like, take a stab, you know, whatever. Some people take a stab. Famous Fugazi line is to take a sprinkle, right? The undefined bet, that's, you know, we're just not about that here. Here we tie units to risk, so it's always very important. Jay, do me a favor, bring up the F5 under. If it's 4.5, I think I'll go under, because I think the way we laid it out, even if both pitchers get touched, there's very little walks going on. There may be home runs, but I don't think we get to 4.5. If we can go under 4.5, that's something I would definitely get at. It looks like, wow, the board is all over the place. I see it under 5. We can go under 5 F5. I absolutely want to go under F5. So I'm gonna go bet that right now on my own, right? You know, like I'm gonna act like sometimes I bet everything we put on the show, Paul, but I don't always high roll everything because you gotta be careful when you're betting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 3-4 figures on fucking everything, man. You know, you start again pulling your hair out. That's why I'm very clear about the playoff stuff. During the regular season, we have so much money rolling. I don't even whatever. It doesn't matter. At this point, it's like, man, do I really want to take on a 160? I don't have the chance tomorrow to kind of work into a plan because we're kind of volume people. So let's get the F5 U5 for sure. And now I feel pretty good. We laid out a little balanced ticket. Paul, if there's anything else you'd like to add, and then if not, just promote all your stuff. We really do appreciate you for being. Now you're part of the phalanx here at 300, man. You know, there's a very small group of us, and I think we all need to be connecting and gravitating towards one another and trying to elevate one another the very best that we can. Because, Paul, again, you're on the very, very short list of people that, like, if I were given the green light to network of something for baseball, like, you keep your phone on, homie, because the work you're doing, it matters. It's really funny and it's really smart. And I think the fact that you've made I don't want to call it hobbies because you get paid for. I'm not trying to demean it, but the fact that you're dude, it's the video game stuff. It's the OTP. It's simulations. Like, you're wholly focused here, and so you are really part of the tapestry, right? That we do appreciate here. So close us out, promoting stuff. No, man, I get the chance to give back to you. Don't even get me started on, again, remember, people, I'm a sports talking head. I used to be a commercial electrician. I've had discs removed. I had a catastrophic injury. I was told I may never be active ever again. And Paul and Justin were there for me every Monday, like clockwork, when I was, arduous, screaming, going through physical rehab. You connect with the people that helped you. And Paul, you're a central part of where I am today. I absolutely mean that. So with all love, my man.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's great talking with you. Again, I think probably my biggest lean today is Max Scherzer, getting us 5 innings of quality work there. Maybe a little. I saw someone in chat bring up Jonah Heim as far as some prop bets. I want to co-sign that. I love Jonah Heim. He was one of my big breakouts coming into the year. I think he's become one of the premier catchers in the league. But as far as where to find me, again, it's over at Fangraphs. The Sleeper in the Bus podcast. I didn't cite it specifically, but we do have the podcast there. Fantasy.fangraphs.com. And you're going to see more content coming out in November. We do take kind of a little bit of a break, although Jeff Zimmerman's been churning out the content. I'm going to tag in November, give him a little bit of a breather, but we're running all year long. We're baseball nuts through and through. Over on Twitch, twitch.tv/sport. I do a box score show during the season 3-4 times a week. Come check that out in the mornings. But otherwise, I play video games, out of the park baseball, sometimes MLB The Show, other video games. Even if you don't play video games, if you like baseball, come through and hang out, just chat, stuff like this. We talk betting, we talk fantasy, all sorts of stuff. And then out of the park baseball, I am the perfect team content director over there. If you play that game, it's a lot of fun. It's kind of like a fantasy game in itself there too. And just baseball all the time. And like you said, I have turned my hobbies into my career, which is very, very fortunate. I feel remarkably lucky to have been able to do that. And it's been very, very fun.
Yeah, man, that was great. My dad would love you. He's a Stratomatic head, like back in the
That
70s.
it's basically
funny you mentioned
computer
Zimmerman. I forgot
Stratomatic.
when I was talking about the things that we use, one of the most impactful things that we've left people here is from Fangraphs is using ball percentage greater than sign walk rate.
Yep.
Paul, we have printed cash on that stat. We have printed cash. It is walk rate. I didn't realize how misleading it is. It's very misleading. And
Oh,
watch
yeah.
again. That's a piece I'm gonna do, and of course we'll do all the citations. So that's it, everybody. Thanks for picking up. We're putting down here at Call to the Pen, the fastest freaking show in MLB. Absolutely anywhere you can stamp that bad boy. Tell him Big Johnny sent you. You know what I mean? So that's it. Enjoy the game. Enjoy your day. When we're done with the book, enjoy the pay. And remember, when you work this freaking hard, yo, it feels a lot less like luck, don't it? Peace.